Oh, yeah. Good morning. Welcome back to Bowers Creations. New day, new project, and I think we're going to address our tape measure holder. This is something we threw together out of junk. It works great, but we've done a whole bunch of work on this wall, and we don't want our tape measure holder falling behind. So we're going to fix it up, make it a little nicer. But what I thought would really be fun, or something different, is show you some of the other projects that take up my time, some of my other interests, and then also kind of behind the scenes of planning new projects. We'll show you a few future projects coming up and what goes into some of this. I'm just a small guy, I do all this by myself, no editor, no help, no cameraman. Everything you see, I do 100% by myself. I may have someone come help me move something every once in a while, but other than that, it's all me. So, for starters, just like many of y'all, I'm sure, I spent a ton of time out here in my garage reorganizing, cleaning, trying to make just that much more space. If you'll notice, the axle rack's gone. I spent about half a day gathering all that stuff up, getting it out of here. I have a Connex off site that I store stuff in. And then check this out. So I had about 14 sheets of sheetrock here. I'm down to 5. I'll show you more of that project later. We got the organizer cabinet pulled off the wall. We got this cabinet nearly cleaned up. We need to build a gun rack here pretty soon. We'll get a video of that. This thing, I'm trying to sell it, but it's on sale, not for sale. If we can't sell it pretty soon, we're going to build a hoist system where we could lift it up in the attic, and then I could store stuff I rarely use in it. But check this out. I'm getting quite a bit of room over here, which is going to be nice. This is where the toolboxes are eventually going to end up once I get rid of the rest of the sheetrock. And check this other wall out. So I also spent a ton of time on this wall here. If you remember correctly, the scaffolding used to hang over here behind the toolbox. I also had a bunch of scrap plywood and particle board over here behind the toolbox. I've got all that moved, relocated. The toolbox is sitting tight up against the wall now. I've spent several hours in the toolbox rearranging stuff to suit my needs better. I just got all that stuff, so not everything's 100% yet. Probably never will be. I also got the table saw nearly cleaned off. I do got a little project with the miter saw coming up, actually the planer, but we'll talk about that more here in a minute. If you notice, the lumber racks are straightened out better, the tarp's hanging better. Made a lot of room out here, especially when I moved the Jeep, but all that takes time, as you know. So that's just one little project I've had going on the last couple weeks. But let's get on to our tape measure holders. So what I got here is a little package of tool belt clips. I got them off of Amazon, I think for like $8 for 10 of them. And they're just little replacement clips. In fact, they even come with the pop rivets, but we're not going to need those. We just need the clips. And how I'm going to start this project is I'm going to lay out a few of them. I got a couple different ideas. I'm going to do one with 2 tape measures, one with 3 tape measures. Kind of different ideas to dress them up some. But we're going to start with jotting down some notes, and then we'll glue up some lumber and make a few plaques basically. So I have my measurements figured out. I'm not going to share them with you because everybody uses different tape measures, but I have several planks of wood. I got just a basic plank of ash. That'll be one. That's what we're going to start with. I have another one that'll be paint grade, and it's going to be double thickness. So I have a couple pieces of wood for it. And then I got a couple that need glued up. One, I'm going to use several different species of wood. We got some white oak, some maple, some red oak, and some ash. That seems to be real popular in the shikuri boards, whatever that is. I've tried to figure it out. And then I got another one with some white oak and some walnut, just one little strip of walnut. Let me get those glued up. The camera's about to die, and then I'll show you the next step from there. So you've seen me do several glue ups here on the channel, and I always cut my glue ups big, so it doesn't matter if my edges line up. If you're not doing your glue ups that way, you need to start. It makes life a whole lot easier. And then the next thing I do is I always tap these things down tight to the clamp. Now, one other thing you probably haven't seen many YouTubers do, I haven't seen it too often, is I always put a top clamp on the opposite way of the others. And what will happen when you're doing these glue ups is you'll put a whole lot of pressure and it'll actually bow this wood. It'll bow it up. So this top clamp helps prevent that. It'll help keep it fairly flat. And now I'm going to cinch these down, and we got to let them dry for a while. All right, while those dry, I'm going to go work on another project off camera. Now, this is just another one of my interests, another thing I do. This isn't anything I'll probably show y'all much of, unless you start screaming at me. But my garage ornament over here, it needs a new steering column. Now, I could go buy one on eBay that's completely refurbished for about 500, 550 bucks, or I could buy one that's just been pulled from a Jeep, no known condition, for 2 to 300 bucks. But instead, this is what I did. Got my hands on another parts Jeep. This is a 1994. Has a 2.5 4-cylinder, the 231 transfer case. It does have a manual transmission. Lots of folks want that. Front clip is mangled, but the rest of it looks fairly straight. The hatch does work, and it does have the interior cover. I got a couple sets of those taillights, so if you need them, holler. This has a Dana 30, Chrysler 8.25 27 spline axle, factory geared in 410s. I'd like to keep those, but money talks. These doors do have the manual options. Lots of folks like that. I will be keeping the steering column for myself. Other than that, lots of good parts. Holler, I'll pull them. So if you're into the older vehicles, you probably know a lot of times you can find a whole wrecked vehicle for probably about the same price as that one part you need. And that's what I done here. So I'm going to get the parts off of it I need, and I'm going to break down the rest. I'm going to sell it out, try to recoup my money, and if not, make a little bit off of it. Now, I've done this a few times. It's going to take me about 3 to 4 weeks to get it broke down. I wish I could hang on to it longer, but I live in the city and I don't have a whole lot of room. I don't want to be that neighbor. So this is going to take quite a bit of my time over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. I'll show y'all some updates on it. Unless you really start screaming at me, you'll probably won't see very much of it. Our glue ups, to be honest with you, have been drying about a week now, and they need smoothed up. I'm either going to run them through the planer. I might try just belt sanding them. They're a little rough. I'll fill you in when we get there. But I've had a lot of stuff going on. We had a garage sale. This happens to be Easter weekend this weekend. So just covered up. Mowing season started for us here in the Texas Panhandle. Been mowing the last couple weekends. But I think the first one I'm going to play with is the one we're going to double up. I got my dado blade set up. Here, hang on just a second. So I got my dado blade set up, and I set it to a little more than half the thickness of my phone. And we don't want to cut all the way through the phone. You'll see why here in a minute. And I got my miter gauge out, and we're just going to groove us a dado about as wide, a little bit wider than the phone in these two. We're going to make a match. So we need to do one in the face of this one and one in the face of this one. All right, so we got them grooved out to the thickness I want. A little more than the phone. And now I'm going to take a little mouth sander and kind of smooth this up some. It doesn't have to be perfect, and we'll go from there. Now that we got our groove cut in there, I went ahead and glued it together face to face. Got it clamped up. We'll let that set up. So our piece is dried up pretty good. And I went ahead and milled this one edge. I ran it through the table saw, sanded it on the edge sander. And I'm going to take a little 1/4-inch piece of poplar, and I'm just going to glue on the bottom just like that to cap it. And then once this dries, we can sand it and start all of our milling. I just finished all my belt sanding. I'm waiting on the dust to settle. So I thought I'd bring you in and show you another project that's taking up a lot of my time. And that's going to be my master bedroom remodel. We tore it down to the studs, new electrical, new insulation on the exterior walls. We got the sheetrock nearly done. And let me show you what we're aiming for. So in this room next door, We done the same thing. We went down to the studs, new electrical, new sheetrock, new texture and paint, window sills, new fixtures and switches and devices. We even done the closet, new doors, and really all I lack is some flooring and base trim, but I'm waiting till I have more flooring to do. Anyways, while we're in here, I do got a little tip I want to share with you, and that's going to be about scraping this popcorn. So everybody tells you to spray it with water and it comes right off, but that's not always the case, especially if it's old and been painted numerous times. But there is one disclaimer I want to share real quick. In these older homes, this popcorn could have asbestos in it, so wear a respirator or a dust mask. We're going to be using water, so it shouldn't be too bad. I'm just going to be doing a little sample piece here, so I'm not too worried about it. But what I wanted to share with you, before you spray all this with water, what you might want to do is go through and just scratch it a little bit. Now, I'm not trying to get it all the way off. I'm just trying to scratch the paint and get it, you know, roughed up a little bit so it'll take in the water a little more. Now, what I'm going to do is just like everybody tells you, is I'm going to spray it with water. I don't want it completely soaked, but I'm going to put a layer of water on it. And I'm also going to spray over here where I didn't scrape it so we can compare the results. So we're going to let that soak for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come in here and scrape it off. Now that that's had time to soak, let's see what it does for us. So it's coming off right here. Just pretty much falling right off for us. This is where I pre-scraped. And now we're getting over to where I didn't scrape. You could hear the difference on how it's not coming off here. So you probably should have almost been able to hear in the video the difference from where I did pre-scrape it and where I didn't. But let's take a look. So where I did pre-scrape it, you can see it's fairly dead gum clean. Not much left up there. Over here where I didn't pre-scrape it, there's still quite a bit left. We'll have to squirt it with water again to get it off. So let that be a little secret. Next time you try to scrape some popcorn, if you're planning on doing a remodel, hopefully it'll save you a lot of trouble. Now, if you're wondering about this project and why I haven't videoed any of it, I didn't think anybody wanted to see me ripping sheetrock out, insulating. I'm not going to show you much electrical because I am a licensed electrician, and it just gets into a liability issue with that. So unfortunately, we probably won't ever see much electrical. Now, when we get to the build process, building the window sills and the closet, I probably will do a video for you, but that's in the future. For now, let's go build our tape measure holders. So like I mentioned earlier, I got everything belt sanded and smoothed out. I still need to finish sand it, and I've cut everything to length, which for me, 8 inches held 2 tape measures, and 11 3/4 held 3 tape measures. Now the reason I didn't cut it to height yet is I'm going to drill some holes in these to hold some pencils and Sharpies and whatnot, and sometimes drill bits will rip out some wood. That way we could drill our holes and then trim it up on the table saw to clean it up if we need to. Now on this double one, I could drill some larger holes, but something to watch out for is I'm going to use what they call a keyhole router bit to do some slots so we can hang these. So your outer holes, or where you might position your slot, you might make those holes a little smaller, maybe just enough to hold a number 2 pencil, and then you could do bigger holes where your slots ain't going to be. So I'm going to start with a pilot bit to drill my holes, and then I'll increase the size of my bit as I go. So now that we're working with a larger hole and a longer bit, I want to make sure I don't drill my holes too deep. I'm thinking about a 3-inch hole. My overall height I'm aiming for is 3 1/4. And then when we cut the top off, we'll lose a little bit of that 3 inches. So about 3 inches should be about perfect for what I'm doing. Just right about there. Now we might not be able to see that Sharpie mark, so I'm gonna put some tape on there. Of course you could, this drill press does have a stop in it. If you wanted to spend the time to set that, that might be a better bet, but this is a little quicker, and that's what we're gonna go with. Man, that's gonna work out about perfect right there. That was about a 5/16 bit, I believe. Holds a number 2 pencil perfectly. Now I'm gonna drill some larger holes, maybe a 1/2 inch holes here in the middle, and we'll see what that looks like. So now we're gonna step up our size one more time. This is a 9/16 bit. Let's see how this goes. All right, that worked pretty good. It looks like we could hold a Sharpie now and hold a pencil. This might be a pretty cool little project. So the only Forstner bit I actually have is this 22 mm, but we're gonna give it a go now. Turns out quite a bit of stuff will fit in this larger hole. How about a king size Sharpie? And for you welder types, your soapstone pencil fits down in there perfectly. And then even extendable magnet. Man, there's probably all kinds of uses for that. Tell me in the comments what you come up with. But I think we're going to finish sand this, get it all ready, cut it to the proper height I want, and then we'll pick out some details to route out and clean it up some, make it look a little prettier. All right, so again, we got everything finished sanded up, and I went ahead and done some details. On these two with the holes, I went ahead and just done a little bitty 1/8 inch round over. I think that's going to work pretty good on them. That's about all we can do on them. On our bigger, blockier one, I went for a chamfer or a 45, about a 1/4 inch chamfer. I think that'll look pretty cool on that one. And on this last one, we didn't drill any holes in it. It's my personal one. And if you've been watching the channel, you know I have a fancy pencil drawer. So I don't need a place to put any pencils. So I went with the 1/4 inch beaded detail on this one. Just kind of a little bit nicer detail. And I got a way in the oven that I'm going to personalize this in a little bit more. But the next thing we need to do is drill our keyhole slots. Now this is a jig. I seen it on YouTube years ago, and what it'll do is it fits on my router perfectly, and then I could plunge it in and slide it and make a keyhole slot. Now depending on the application, every time I got to use different spacers or modify it a little bit, so be prepared for that. But let me show you how this works. So I've got everything clamped down real well, and what I'll do is I'll set this in here. I'm not touching the wood yet. I'm holding it up. I'll start it, I'll plunge it, and then I'll pull it over. Let me demonstrate that now. Oops, I got an air gap in my power supply. Hang on. All right, let's try that again. Make sure you turn your router off before trying to get it out. Pull that out. And this is what it does for you. It does a little keyhole slot to hang stuff by a screw. You can see a little wobble on that one. I'll have to do better on our project, but that's all it does. Now what I think I want to do on these, usually I do horizontal ones, but I think it'd be better since we have our holes to do a vertical one. So I want to have to use some spacers and some good clamping methods, but we'll make this work. I'm going to cut these keyhole slots and then I'll show you what I have brewing in the oven. Now, like I said, with the use of different spacers, this is going to help me stop it where I want it and start it. I had to kind of throw it off the center. I got a spacer here. So a little ingenuity, this jig could be pretty handy. Let's give it a whirl. And just like that, now I'm going to repeat this process numerous times. We'll get this all done up. So that's how that worked out. I think that's going to work just fine. And now we're going to have to move outside for this next step on mine. All right, so I told you I had something in the oven. I've already tried this once. Let's hope it's hot enough this time. Oh, yeah. Check that out. A little bit of sanding. It's going to come out cool. All right, so we moved back in the garage. There's a better look at that. Once I do a little more sanding, the B will stick out a little bit more. But if you notice, I've already laid out the holes for all my clips. And what I'm going to do is take a little scratch awl, punch the center of all my holes, and I'm going to pre-drill them just a real small bit. I actually don't have the screws I want to use here. I'm going to have to go find some bronze screws. But once I get those holes drilled, I could do the final sanding and finish sanding on all of them, get them cleaned up one last time, and start getting them ready for stain or paint, lacquer, whatever they may be getting. I got a combination over here, or a mixture, I guess. So I got all my finish sanding done. My final little hand sanding, broke the edges, kind of cleaned it up some, worked my details. Now this one over here, I got drying. I sprayed some satin dark walnut on it. It's just something I had laying around. I think it'll work pretty good. Now for the ash one, just the ash plank, I went ahead and put a little color on it, because when you just clear ash, it comes out a kind of an ugly blonde. And then I went ahead and put the same color on this one that has the multiple species. It's looking pretty good. Now mine, I went ahead, I didn't put anything on it. I really like just natural wood cleared. I don't know what this white oak's going to look like clear, but we're about to find out. And what I'm going to spray on here is some clear aerosol lacquer. It's a clear gloss. Yeah, gloss. If I didn't have so much chewing gum in my mouth. I really like this stuff. I like it more than the polyurethanes because it dries fast. It's easy to work with. The only bad thing about this is it stinks bad and it's very flammable. So make sure you got some ventilation going on. I got a little bit. I'm just going to spray the back of these and then leave. So let's see what it looks like. Maybe. Now with this lacquer, you want it to be a pretty wet edge. I think that's going to look pretty good. Here, let me give you a close-up. Already pretty shiny. So after that first coat dries a little bit, I'll probably hit it with some Scotch-Brite pad, throw another coat on it, and then flip it over and do the front. We'll show you what it looks like when it's all finished up. So I just got back from my dad's house, just ate a big old Easter dinner, celebrating Jesus Christ. And check these things out. They've had time to dry, and man, they're looking good. They're ready for the clips to be nailed on. I was really wanting to screw them on, but to find some burnt screws or burnt bronze screws, antique bronze, couldn't do it. So what I found is some of these upholstery tacks, and I think that's what we're going to try. Some of this maple and white oak is pretty hard, so I don't know if these are going to work or not, but we're going to give it a go. If it don't work, we may have to order some screws and prolong this video. Well, that worked pretty good. I tried it in this poplar one first because poplar is a lot softer. It worked pretty good. So now we're going to try it in some of these harder ones. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let me show you a close-up of mine, and then I'll go show you the other ones. So if you remember, mine was made out of the white oak and walnut, and it came out pretty deadgum nice. I always liked the cheap alternative that I had before, but it's nice to have nice stuff. Let's go look at the other ones. These turned out pretty nice too. The one with the multiple species, I really kind of like it. And something I just thought of when I was putting these up here on the wall is you could drill them out to hold your bits or your apexes along with your pencils. This one all along was supposed to be for a phone, but found out a notepad fits in there pretty good. And another thing I thought of, it'd be pretty cool just to groove the whole thing out in a pocket so you could put all kinds of stuff in there. The plain ash one, just a simple little build, but it sure looks nice as well. So I think these came out pretty cool. Y'all tell me in the comments below which one you like the most. I know which one I like the most. And as far as these other three, they'll probably go on my pile of trinkets I've built over the years. Someday I'll find a place to sell them or someone who wants them. And until then, I'll let the pile just keep building up. Now, I promised you we'd talk about more projects. My next video, I can't tell you much about because it is a secret, but it's going to be a really good how-to video. I'll explain in detail what I'm doing, and that way y'all be able to build it yourself. Now, as far as my miter saw, well, let's go look at the miter saw. That's going to be a cool project too. So if you remember, several months ago, we set the miter saw up where the ready alarm saw is now, and we put the planer on this miter saw stand. Now the miter saw, it's going to have to go back on this miter saw stand. That's where it belongs. But as far as the planer, let me show you this. So right here on the side of my table saw, for a throwout table, I have a steel table I built many years ago. And that DeWalt planer will actually fit in the side of this table saw right here, or this table. And what I thought would be cool is to build some heavy duty slides and have it to where my planer pulls out the side. I could use it and then roll it back in there and lock it up. That's what this table was designed for, is a locker storage for tools. And I think it'd work out pretty good. Tell me what you think. So like I said, today was going to be kind of a behind the scenes video. We still knocked out a project. I think the tape measure holders, they came out pretty awesome. But we talked about several projects along the way. The parts Jeep and this Jeep here. So it's a Jeep, it's a car thing. It really don't match up with the channel, but in a way it kind of does. I've personalized this Jeep enough. It is kind of becoming one of my creations. There is another project in there, a build project that we'll get to sooner or later. But we also talked about other projects, such as a toolbox hoist. We're going to hoist a toolbox up into the attic. That might be a pretty cool build. I think the planer build, putting the planer on the slide, that's going to be a really cool project. You're really going to like the how-to video next week. My how-to videos have been probably my best videos. It'll be real detail-oriented. I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. And that way you could build one of these yourself. I can't tell you what it is yet, but it's coming. I have my late brother's chessboard. I want to build some kind of table for it. It needs reconditioned, and I'd like to fix it back up. I built it back in, I think it's 2002. It's had a lot of abuse. I'd like to take it apart, rebuild it, throw in some more character to it, and do something with that. I think that'd be a fun project. So we got a lot of projects coming up. The bedroom project, I'd like to show you how I built my closet. Those closet rods, I built some homemade closet rods for pennies that are much stronger than anything you'll find locally or at your hardware store. So we got a lot of stuff we're working on. We're going to keep bringing videos to you. Sometimes they may be slow. Sometimes we may start getting in a roll. It just depends on the workload and other things we got going on. April's a real busy month for me. We have our wedding anniversary. We just had our 3rd-year wedding anniversary last week. My sister's birthday, my wife's birthday, Easter. So it's been a busy month, and we've had a lot of weather too. We had snow the first weekend of April. We had a bunch of rain this weekend, so getting in and out of the garage or outside has been limited. Which reminds me, outside, I got a couple garden projects planned. They're still going to be build videos, but it'll be out in the garden, kind of show you around the garden. And of course, we got to show you how the garden's doing this year. I thought about doing some smaller updates. We done a walk around last year, and another walk around we do have is of the Jeep. Again, if you're interested in that. So let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. We're going to keep bringing them to you. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.